You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm itsasherz and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good, actually. I bought a car, which was sorely needed. So that was stressful, but now I've got a newer car than the one that we got rid of. So that's nice. It'll help for all of the road trips that I do, as a part of this weird job that we have. So that'll be nice. I'll have a new vehicle to make it out to Frogman Fest early next month.
Yeah, March 1st and March 2nd.
That's right.
At the Oasis Convention Center, I think.
Yeah.
I should be ready for this. In Ohio, you can buy your tickets now online. They're discounted.
Yes, absolutely. So that was nice. And then now normally every year we celebrate New Year's with Adam and Amber Benedict. So you know Adam, but then he and his wife will come over. And for anybody listening, it's Adam Benedict. He operates the Pine Barrens Institute website. Does a lot of really fun and interesting work into folklore and things like that. Avid collector of taxidermied items and such. And so we usually have them over. And we'll have like a pajama party and we'll sit around, we'll eat food, we'll watch TV, we'll ring in the new year. And we always do a gift exchange. Well, this year they were sick. And so we couldn't do our normal New Year's Eve. So we finally got around to doing it just this past weekend. And as part of the gift exchange, apparently something, and I already knew this about Adam, but for everybody else who wouldn't know this, he loves just finding deals on Etsy and eBay. And so he kind of is just prowling around the corners of the internet looking for interesting items that people don't necessarily know the worth of, right? And so he managed to find an original 1980 copy of High Times magazine with the cover done by fucking Frank Frazetta. Yeah, the Mothman one with the interview inside with John Keel. And so that's what I got. And I was just like, oh my God, dude, are you serious? Like, holy shit. Right. So that was amazing. And yeah, I'm still excited about it. It's sitting in my library right now. It's actually like 3 feet from me.
Staring at you.
It is. I'm staring at it. And
I don't know how you can top that as a gift, like just for your weekend anyway. I don't know how you can top that, but like as a gift, man, that's good stuff.
That was amazing. Yeah. So I was obviously super happy with that. I got to figure out a way to like frame it basically, because it's not a take out and read magazine. It's like you got to preserve this because it's not in like super rough shape, but it is an older magazine. I mean, it's a 45-year-old issue of High Times magazine, right? So like it needs to be encased in glass somewhere where people can't get their oily fingers all over it, so it can be preserved for future generations who need this knowledge. So it's great. I might actually, like, we have cloth gloves here because Emily does work with photography and stuff, and part of that is like photo restoration. And so we have cloth gloves around. And so I might slap a pair of those on and open it up just to read the John Keel interview once. And maybe like take some photos or something to scan. Yeah. And then put it behind glass forever, just hang it up on the wall or something. So, but that was really exciting. Yeah, that was my weekend, other than watching that new, oh God, have you seen this? The fucking wrestling horror movie? What's it called? Deathmatch?
What? No.
Or Dark Match or something. No, my God, it's Chris Jericho did it. He's responsible for this.
That sounds like something Chris Jericho would do.
No, it's on Shudder right now. It's called Dark Match. That's what it is. It's called Dark Match. And it's honestly, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it more than I didn't. Like, definitely whoever wrote it. I don't know if he wrote it or not. I just know he's involved and he's actually in the movie. But whoever wrote it definitely wanted people watching to know that they knew a little bit about wrestling. And so they're just using, there's like 3 wrestling terms that they just use at every opportunity. So they're calling all the bad guys heels, they're calling all the good guys faces, and then they're always talking about kayfabe. Like, oh, I'm done. No, I was just kayfabe. I was just pretending, you know. And I was like, I get it. Okay, like you also a little bit about wrestling. Like it's fine. You don't have like when you're watching wrestling, like nobody calls each other that. But anyway, so it was right. I'm just saying, like that's part of the illusion, part of the showmanship of wrestling is nobody is going to use those fucking terms like during the actual like match, or you know, it's just I just felt like it was slightly overused, but it was still entertaining. The ending, which I will not spoil because this movie is relatively new, is fucking ludicrous, and I did not like the ending, but it's still perfectly watchable. Like if you've got Shudder or AMC Plus or whatever, just go ahead and watch it. Like you won't regret it. But yeah, dark match.
I'm reading about it right now. Yeah, it's looks pretty legit. It has a like a cult plot. It seems. I mean,
yes, there is a cult involved,
yes.
and that's not really a spoiler to say that.
Yeah, so that is if you're into movies about cults and movies about wrestling that star Chris Jericho. It sounds like it's for you, which means it's for me. So
Right.
pretty good stuff. Wow, that
Yeah.
sounds all right. That
Yeah,
sounds all
no, I
right.
mean, now that I said it, I only said my weekend was pretty good at the beginning, and then I talked about it, and I was like, you know what? I'd say my weekend was a little better than
It was
pretty
pretty
good.
great.
Yeah, could be pretty great. Could just be a solid good.
Solid
But
good. Wow.
yeah, Anyway, how was your weekend?
Yeah. It was similar. So my mom moved. And that's been a lot. She's been in the process of moving for months. She's lived in the same house for like 25 years, and she moved to a better, nicer house. So it's been a good move, not because she needed to or anything.
Yeah.
But she finally finally officially is out of the old house and in the new house. So she had us all over because we also got new phones and we all are on the same family plan together. So it was pretty chaotic because it was myself, my child, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, her husband, and their 2 very young kids.
Okay.
On top of that, so we get new phones, and I guess now you don't like go to the phone store and get your phone; they've come to your fucking house.
Yeah, you just order them.
No, like the phone guy came to the house.
Oh, what? No, that's uncomfortable.
So we actually switched phone carriers, which, in that case, everybody got a new phone for free. It's cheaper overall every month, whatever. But
Yeah.
like the guy came to the house and that was it was so weird. But the big reason why that sucks is because my mom has a vicious dog and he will maul your face off. And my mom is kind of trying to break him of that. He's not aggressive in the means that like he's just mean and angry. He has really bad insecurity issues. Um,
Wait, will he literally just kill people? Like how many people has he killed?
Probably. Well, he tried to kill one, and didn't succeed. No, there was a maintenance guy one time that came over. He bit him.
What kind of dog is it?
He's a mini Aussie. So
Okay. So he's just a little guy.
he's not, well, I mean, they're not teeny tiny. They're like medium-sized dogs, but you could take him, you know what I mean, if he was trying to get at you, like you definitely could. But he's
Okay.
always had like these weird issues. Like he's always been a biter. Like as a little puppy, he would bite the shit out of her all the time. Well, I kind of raised him initially because my mom works at a hospital. She has very long hours. So I'd be at her house with the dog. And he never bit me until about a year and a half into his life where he came up to me and we used to actually he loved me and everybody was like, "Oh man, Pepper loves you and you're his person or whatever." And he came up to me and I would give him a massage and I'd be like, "Oh, you want a massage?" And he comes up and I start massaging him and he bit me for the first time. And then the very next day he came up to me again, got in my lap just to bite me. So kind of unpredictable, but he is 7, so and we've had him since he was a puppy, so we kind of understand why he does it. He has really bad insecurity issues. Meanwhile, she's got a second dog, another mini Aussie, Copper. He's a big dumb floof. Like he is the sweetest, nicest dog, wouldn't hurt a fly. Night and day contrast between the two. I don't know why, but anyway. So my mom, for some reason, during all this excitement in a brand new house, the first week decides having the AT&T guy come and hook up our phones at the house is a great learning opportunity for her dog. And it wasn't. That's not how you do that because he doesn't even like my sister and her family, like because they live kind of far away, so they're not always over. So she's got him on a leash and she keeps trying to have him out in the room with the guy and the dog is barking and the dog barked the entire time the AT&T guy was there. It was like 3 hours of the guy trying to set up the phones and dogs barking and babies crying and toddlers screaming. And it was just absolute fucking chaos, which made me really appreciate my quiet 2-bedroom apartment all the more. Right. And my 2 cats that don't bark.
So I can't get over this dog just going around biting people all the time. Yeah. So is this like drawing blood? Do you need stitches? Like how bad are we talking here?
Oh, well, so, I mean, so I was kind of saying, for the beginning of his life, he'd bite the shit out of my mom constantly. And he will use biting as a way to bully you to get you to do what he wants you to do. So like if he wants a treat, if he wants to go for a walk, if he wants outside, if you're not listening to his cues, which is for him to come and whine at you first, then he'll start fucking biting you. And
like how hard though?
Well, it draws blood. It's not great. My mom's all fucked up on her arms everywhere. And she's just like, "Oh, it's fine." He's bitten her in the face. He's bitten all around her arms, but he doesn't do it to attack. So initially he would bite my daughter and she's not allowed to be alone with him. Yeah. She can be at the house. But he did go after her one time, did try to bite her. The other dog, the great big aloof, lovable dog, attacked the shit out of Pepper. Who was not having it. So so he protects his family. He's like, hell no, he's not having it. But the big dumb dog, we can't trust him to protect strangers that come to the house.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, he goes around biting people and she, just keeps him. And, I've tried to, help her train him. I stopped after he bit me. I was like, it really ruined my relationship with dogs. It did. I love dogs, but I trusted him too much and I shouldn't have. And that's my bad. I don't blame Pepper. I do still love Pepper, but in a different way.
Sure. That's too bad. I hear stories like that all the time. And I've had dogs around me my whole life. Yeah. And it's so weird and alien to me to think of a dog biting me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a dog that was in my house, like that was a part of my family. Because I'm looking at Bullet right now and he's like half snoozing on the chair over there. And that dog would rather be like tortured to death by fucking Nazis than bite me. Like he would do anything in the universe other than bite me. Yeah. And our other dog, she's the same way. And I'm reminded because I had a friend that just came over not that long ago, and he's a little reluctant around Jadzia just because she's very boisterous. And he had this incident where he and his wife adopted this dog. And I think I can't remember like what kind of dog it was. So I don't want to give any specific slander to any breed here, but it was some kind of dog. And it was probably medium-sized ish, 40-ish pounds, I think. And the dog bit him, but it had known aggression, right? Like when they adopted it, like the foster even said that it had food aggression and stuff. And I'm like, well, all right. So you knew the dog was aggressive and then it bit you. Like my dogs are not aggressive. And so like, I guess... What are these people doing adopted all these aggressive dogs? Like, just don't do it. Knock it off. Like, don't let them around you.
Yeah. Well, truth be told, Pepper and Copper are both they're both pet store dogs, which I don't condone. She knows
Yeah.
that. What's hilarious is like Pepper, and I'll post a picture on social media if you guys haven't seen them. They're beautiful dogs. Pepper's always the favorite. He's a blue merle, and people just they think he's so beautiful. And like when
So
you're
he
out
bites them.
walking, you're right. When you're out walking, people want to pet Pepper and they can't, and you have to be like, "We can
Right.
pet that one." They're like, "Well, I don't want to pet that one. He's not." So
That's rude.
Copper, he always gets kind of the short end of the stick because he's goofy. He was actually a clearance puppy because nobody wanted him because he's
Oh, I
because
want
he's
him.
got I know he's got issues, I guess, that aren't he's not a perfect mini Aussie.
Oh, get fucked with
So
that shit, people.
right, exactly. So it's really funny. And then so when she got them fixed, she had to do DNA testing in order, I guess, to check for something specific to see if they could go under anesthesia. That's a thing you do now with your pets for surgery.
Okay.
And so when she got the panels back, Pepper's like not even an Australian Shepherd at all. He's like mostly Dalmatian. And Copper
Oh,
is closer to being a true Aussie. And again, he's the discount dog. So
right.
it's
Oh,
uh it's funny. I mean, we like I said, we love Pepper. Pepper's situation is a little bit different because he's not food aggressive. He doesn't do it to be mean. He does it because he is very, very insecure, and we don't really know why. But who knows where that comes from? So you have to build his confidence, and that's what I've told her for years and years and years, and she gives in. And so I'm like, well, then you're gonna have a dog that fucking bites people and barking at the AT&T guy for 3 hours while the poor guy's just trying to do his job.
right. Well, it's just so the dog's gonna bite the wrong person, and they're gonna have to put it down. Is
That's
what's gonna happen.
exactly. Yep. Well,
Like it's impossible to keep a dog like that you take in public from, unless you always put a muzzle on them every time you leave the fucking house. A kid's going to sneak up and you're not going to notice and they're going to touch your dog and he's going to fucking bite them. And that's
yeah.
going to be the end of it.
Well,
And
and
that
that's been the
sucks.
thing about moving is that, one of her new neighbors who she hasn't really talked to yet, they're outside people. They like to hang outside in their yard and they have
Yeah.
toddlers. And if those toddlers come up to that fence and they try to touch that dog, he's not going to jump the fence to get to them. The
No.
fence is too high anyway, so he can't. But if they come through and they find a hole and they stick their fingers in, they're gone.
Yeah.
And
That's not great.
that's the way he is. But he'll also like he's the killer too. He's killed all kinds of animals. All
Yeah.
kinds. Whereas Copper is just afraid of them, so which is kind of expected, right? And animal is a different thing. Before that, we had a big dumb lab, great dog, great family dog, one of the best dogs we've ever owned. And he would try to kill the animals,
Yeah.
but that's just a dog
Jedzia,
thing.
our dog she's like an American pit bull and a husky mix. And she's got a real high prey drive, but she knows that, like, for instance, the cats aren't prey. Cats are part of the pack. Cats are part of the family. So we can play with cats, but we don't go after cats. But like rabbits and shit out in the yard, I'm just like, shit, run, rabbit,
Right.
because if she
Yeah, right.
catches you, that's it.
One summer with the lab that we had, his name is JD. He lived to be 15, which is like less than 4% of labs live that long. So it was pretty crazy. But there's a bird's nest and some baby birds fell out of the nest and he got the baby birds and the mother bird was pissed at him. And he enjoyed that because she would come swooping down at him, trying to attack him anytime he was outside. And he was like, "Oh, it's a fun game."
Right.
Because he's just a big dumb dog. Anyway,
Right. Okay. Yeah, we've turned this into the Tobias and Asher's animal hour.
the animal hour. This is my personal pets. I call them my part-time dogs, because I still have to go take care of them sometimes.
Right.
But anyway, so I did that. I also watched Jawbreaker, the movie Jawbreaker. Have you seen that one?
No, not
It's
yet.
old. It's old. It's like Mean Girls if there was a murder in it. It's like a horror comedy. Some girls
Oh, okay.
kidnap their friend on her birthday. They shove a jawbreaker in her mouth. It kills her, and then they're kind of covering it up. It's not
Sure.
great. But it's a movie I remembered, being a young kid and renting from the video store, and I wanted to see if it held up all right. Yeah, it was okay. I mean, again, it's not great, but it was okay.
Okay. Yeah, I had to Google it. No, I recognize it now. Yeah, it's got Rose McGowan in it. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it does. And then I also started watching on my quest, continuing from last week where I watched Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. I decided to rewatch, and I had started rewatching it, but I stopped. Metalocalypse again.
Oh,
So,
nice. Okay.
because I guess they finished it with a movie, and I fucking had no idea. And let me tell you, I'm like super into that Metalocalypse lore. Like that storyline is fucking fire. And the way that they barely tease it and just give you little tidbits at a time, it is delicious. And I eat that shit right up. So I'm excited to actually finish it through its entirety because when it got canceled, I was one of those people that was like, no, you can't do that. So that's been my life lately.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you got closure on Metalocalypse.
Not yet. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm going
You
to.
will get it.
I will.
It exists.
It's coming. Other than that, just writing this book. It's done. Believe it or not, it's finished. I just need to get it printed out now, and of course, that's going to be available at the Frogman Festival. So, check it out when that happens. It's not going to be available before that point. So if you're not going to be there, I don't know, it'll probably be out the following week, I guess. At least I'm going to try to make it not available. I don't really know how that works exactly. I think I don't have a choice. So I think I just have to not advertise it. So maybe just, Google my name or whatever a couple times and see if it pops up, and maybe you'll get lucky soon. But this has been an adventure.
Yeah, no,
sure.
it is. I remember the first book that I wrote, and I was not prepared.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody, if you have questions about it, it's about Injured Cold. It's not just about Injured Cold, though. It's about my experience into investigating the Injured Cold situation. I'm not going to get too much into it. Maybe one day we'll do a whole episode on Injured down the line, I'm sure, but I'm going to talk about it plenty that whole weekend. So I'm just going to save it for that. So anyway,
Okay.
that was it. That was my weekend.
Excellent. Sounds like a pretty solid weekend.
Man, it's been a lot. But thank you. It was good. So I don't really have any news to share.
Ooh, I have a news.
Good.
Unless you have something else you want to talk about.
Not so much. I mean, everything so far, like, is this, I've been doing the show a long time, and we've always had the news segments. I feel like it's just been so slow lately, and I get people aren't going out and about, right? People are just kind of staying in. I mean, is it always this fucking slow during this time of year?
Yeah, generally. I think January, February are probably the slowest times. There's just not that much going on in the news cycle. But then you combine that with the fact that we have a new administration taking over, and that just drowns out everything. So
yeah, it's just not been very groovy. So I'm hoping with Valentine's Day coming up, that we get some really interesting stories about people getting things stuck in their bodies, right? People getting their bodies stuck in things.
Okay. Mutilated, perhaps. Yeah.
That's my hope.
Because if you try to have sex with like a vacuum cleaner or something, you are gonna get your dick at least mutilated, if not severed. Because there's a little blade in there, I guess, like a little fan blade.
In the vacuum cleaner?
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that real?
Yeah. No, it's a thing. You haven't seen that?
No.
Oh yeah. Do not fuck the vacuum cleaner.
Well, thanks for letting me know. I won't be sticking my appendages in the
Don't put anything in there that you want to keep.
I was thinking of like just maybe degloving or something, which would be horrifying on your penis.
Bad enough. That might be worse, actually. I don't know.
Man, I look forward to the news next week.
Yeah, we'll see. I have like one bit of weird news that is not about dicks being mutilated. If that's okay. I mean,
I guess so. It's all right,
okay.
I guess.
All right. Well, this is about a woman who had a very unusual experience in Hartford, Wisconsin. So I was contacted recently by a woman named Holly. And she wanted to tell me about her experience with a set of mysterious multicolored lights that she witnessed near Holy Hill in Wisconsin. So this is all the way back on December 23rd, 1972. She was in Hartford, Wisconsin at her parents' house. It's in the area of Holy Hill. Now, Holy Hill, for those of you familiar with Wisconsin weirdness, you're going to recognize that name as having all kinds of strange phenomena associated with it. It's right in that Kettle Moraine, southeastern corridor of the state, like high strangeness fucking area. So immediately, like my curiosity was piqued as soon as she said she had a weird experience from that area. So um, basically, her parents' house was out in the countryside. So this is a very rural area. There are some houses, but they're very scattered, right? So they were on their own like 6 acres, and she's up late one night. Her and her husband are watching television there, and at about 11:45, she noticed that all of a sudden it seemed like it was daylight outside. Now, at first, since it had been snowing like all night, she thought that maybe the moon had come out, like the cloud cover had dissipated, and there was just a really bright moon reflecting off the snow or something. But this was far too bright even for that. I mean, she said it really seemed like it suddenly was just as bright as midday, which is obviously very unusual. So, uh, obviously, she's very, very startled by this. You know, she's wondering, how is this possible? And after a short amount of time, the light changes color, and it cycles through a couple of colors. So at varying points, it's like red and blue, which is bizarre, obviously. And it gets weirder, you know, because she runs over to the window and she can't find a source for this light. All she sees is that it has illuminated the entire area. And so there's nothing on the ground that she could see that could be causing this. And she didn't notice anything in the air, but she couldn't get outside to go look, because this is where things get even stranger, right? So she wants to run outside, and she asks her husband to help her get this door unstuck because there's a bunch of snow piled up in front of it, and he says no, he just refuses. She runs into her parents' room to try to wake them up, and they won't wake up. You know, she's literally shaking her mother, like yelling at her, and she just won't wake up. And then when she comes back into the room where her husband this whole time has just been sitting watching TV like nothing is going on, she comes back in there, and when she does, he looks up at her and just says, "Where have you been for so long?" And then when she responds with something like, you know, "What do you mean?" He just says nothing. He just goes back to like placidly watching television, which is just fucking bizarre. Like, that's just so strange. And that's basically her story. You know, I've got a much longer version of this written out for anybody who wants to just go over to singular40n.com and see it. It's in the Singular Journal, like, news section. But it's a truly bizarre story. And, you know, she told me that she wasn't able to find any historical weather data on this. And I can more or less confirm that, because basically when you try to, and of course I did try to, what you'll find is that the closest recording center for like meteorological data is General Mitchell Airport. And that's like 40 miles away from where this happened. And so General Mitchell didn't record any snowfall that night. And so, yeah, some skeptic might look at that and be like, oh, well, she's lying. Well, you know what? A lot can happen in 40 fucking miles. Like, it is entirely possible that Hartford, Wisconsin got a foot of snow and General Mitchell Airport, 40 miles southeast, got none. because that happens to us all the time. We live probably 25, 30 miles south of Madison now. And Madison will absolutely get weather that we do not all the time, constantly, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
And check your local Facebook comments on whatever weather station you guys have locally. You'll see that all the time. People are like, "Oh,
right.
you said it was going to be this," and meanwhile, the town next to them are just getting absolutely obliterated.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. And so, she's not wrong. Like, you really can't find weather data specifically for Hartford from that time or any time really, because the only recording stations, like I said, are nearby airports and shit that are actually not close to Hartford at all because it's in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, it's a fascinating story. I find it difficult to classify. I think most people would probably classify it as like a UFO event or something, but I mean, no craft was actually seen. No entities were seen. What we've got are weird lights illuminating a huge area out in the middle of nowhere with no discernible source. And then people acting, or I should say, reacting or not reacting very, very, very strangely. So,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
hate this term, but it sounds like a screen memory.
Okay. Why do you hate that term?
I don't. It just sounds stupid and made up. I don't know.
The term screen memory is itself a screen memory of a better word that we're not allowed to remember.
I just don't like it. It just doesn't sound good on paper. I don't know. It's one of those things, right? Some people hate moist, that's
Yeah, fair.
me and screen memory. But it sounds like, it sounds like that was definitely some type of replacement for potential other odd happenings.
Maybe. We,
But who knows? I'd be interested to see if anything happens further in this person's life,
well,
did she,
this happened so long ago. And
yeah.
of course, I asked her
Yep.
about other stuff. And she really only mentioned the other weird stuff that happened around that time, like her husband not reacting to what was going on and not being able to wake up her parents. And then, I guess there was one other detail that she added, and that was that the next day, nobody wanted to talk about it. Like, everybody just kind of refused to discuss it at all.
Weird.
It was weird, and she didn't report any other unusual phenomena since then.
Wow.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
I'm just saying, fuck all that, That makes me angry. Don't fucking come to my house in the middle of the goddamn night. You know what I mean? Waking me up, okay? Making me look crazy in front of my family.
Well, what was happening to her husband that he just pretended like it wasn't happening at all? Did he just have a psychological break and it was so weird that he just had to ignore it? Was he being manipulated somehow? That's just very bizarre that he wouldn't even acknowledge that it was happening.
Well, that's why I said it's like a screen memory, because it's like maybe even though that's what she remembers happening, maybe that's not what happened at all. And maybe it's
I don't know.
weird because the fucking Greys are weird and they're like, well, what if we just fucked with her and made it seem like nobody was reacting?
I mean,
Who knows?
maybe she only remembered part of what happened,
Yeah,
and
right.
so her husband was being manipulated into not reacting, and then something else happened, and she just lost that part of her memory. Because it does kind of sound like a classic abduction experience
Right.
without the memory of the abduction itself.
Exactly. And so with them not wanting to talk about, was it just like they didn't want to talk about it, or they just refused to acknowledge, they were like, that didn't happen?
Well, from what she said, really, all she would really say about it was that they just refused to talk about it.
Interesting.
So, and actually, her parents didn't have anything to say because they were just asleep. It was mostly her husband, and he refused to discuss it at all. Like, just didn't want to talk about it.
Well,
So,
but that's maybe she's not the one that, maybe the rest of the family have repeated visits and they're just used to it.
maybe.
I
I mean,
shouldn't laugh
or
about it, but that,
you
hey,
do
that could
hear about
happen.
that.
It
Yeah, I mean,
does.
maybe you do hear about that from abduction experiencers, though, where they will describe not being able to wake up their loved ones and stuff during an abduction experience, or other people behaving strangely, like they're hypnotized or just sort of tuned out or something. And so, yeah, you have to wonder um, if it's possible that she was taken, during this time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Um, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they were just being, like you said, manipulated. Um, we don't know.
Yeah,
Interesting. What an interesting case.
yeah,
I
agreed.
like that's some good news.
Some
Well,
quality newsing.
there we go. The quality is a better. It's not really good news. Sorry that happened, but
Hello, friend. Have I told you the good news about our Lord and Savior Mystery Lights?
they're warm. That's what I hear.
They are.
Anyway, no, that is some quality news in there. Let's see. I guess that was the news this week. Jeez, I feel like I'm dropping the ball.
Ah,
Um, this whole topic this week, it's just got my mind in an uproar. Let me tell you, it is angry. It is emotional. This is a very emotional subject this week.
is it?
Tobias, what's your history with Hollow Earth?
I love the fucking Hollow Earth. I'd move there if I could. I love everything about it.
With all the
Uh,
kaiju?
Absolutely. I love the fact that it seems to arise out of a period in history that has created some of like my favorite literature and led to the creation of so much more literature that I enjoy. Uh, it's just the pulpiness of it is amazing. Just the best. Oh man, I would just love to fall down a hole into the hollow earth someday.
One day you will. Well, I don't know. You're probably being cremated. Most people are now, right? Um,
Yeah. We'll see.
Tobias
Maybe
is
I'll
like,
get one of
not
those
me.
things where you like plant a tree and I just become a tree. And
Ooh,
then
yeah.
that tree moves at night and kind of creeps silently, peeking in windows and
I
things.
love those trees. That's one of my favorites. I don't know. I,
Haunted
I
murder tree.
I prefer my Earth without the pulp. I just have such a love hate relationship with this topic. Um, you kind of said it before we started recording. There's just not enough hours. This is not a Hollow Earth podcast. There's not enough hours to cover absolutely everything
It's not a
of
Hollow
this
Earth podcast yet.
yet. No, not yet. But man, there's a lot here. There really is. So since man has been a thing and we could communicate together, there's always been some semblance of a hollow earth in a way, right?
Sure.
We'll role play. Let's say that Tobias, you're a Christian, and I point down and I ask you, "What's down there?" What's your reaction as a Christian?
I mean, if you're just pointing at the ground, I might just look at you like you've lost your mind and maybe entertain you and say it's the ground. I don't know.
The right answer is hell.
Sure. Well, I knew where you were going with that, but I can't make it easy.
I know.
Even before that, as soon as you mentioned this topic, I'm reminded of like the ancient Greeks and the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. And so, anybody not familiar with that one, Orpheus and Eurydice were to be married. Eurydice dies on their wedding night, essentially. She's bitten by a snake. And in his grief, Orpheus decides he's going to go to the underworld and bargain with Hades to get her back. And how does he get to the underworld? Just walks down there through a cave, you know? So, yeah, I mean, the idea that there is another world beneath our feet is fucking ancient.
Ancient, yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say. Aside from Christianity, pretty much every single religion believes in some type of other civilization that is going on, like you said, right below our feet. Except for like, don't come at me and be like, well, atheists don't believe that. No shit, they don't believe that.
Okay,
But
but what do the fun people believe?
Right. Everybody else believes that, okay? Even the agnostics acknowledge that it could be a thing. All right. So,
Right.
Mr. Cool over there, Um, the point is, yes, it's a very old concept, and while it doesn't necessarily say Hollow Earth isn't saying that there is just nothing, like a tennis ball, right? In the middle of a tennis ball is nothing, right? Well, sort of. I mean, there's like the fuzzy on the outside, and then the rubber ball, and then that's it. Some theories are like that, are tennis ball like. But the idea that there is something else beneath our feet that's not hot magma, it's been here for a very long time. And so people, I believe, continue to entertain this idea because it's just always been with us. Um, is my personal take on that whole ordeal. But um, again, this isn't a Hollow Earth podcast. We could do just an episode on the origins of these underground worlds. And we're not going to do that. We're just going to kind of go through the timeline a little bit, kind of bring you up to speed, and then kind of talk about modern day.
And then later, when we need episode ideas, we'll do individual ones in every aspect of the Hollow Earth.
we'll do whatever ones you guys want to specifically hear about in more detail. Here's the thing about it. God, I'm gonna piss so many people off. The Earth's not hollow.
What?
I know. And I know that people are going to, this is what people say. And I'll tell you this. I like hollow earth theory more than flat earth theory. Fuck those people. They're just dumb.
Honestly, that's just like barely disguised religious extremism. Hollow Earth is at least fun.
It is. It is a lot of fun. But two totally different worlds. Yeah, flat Earth, fuck those people. Hollow Earth, I see where you're coming from, Hollow Earthers. I do. And you're going to say, well, how do we know? We've never dug from one side of the Earth to the other. And you're right. Tobias, do you know the furthest down that we have dug on this planet?
I've seen Bugs Bunny dig from one side of the planet to the other, so I'm not sure what these people are talking about.
And Warner Brothers would never lie.
Exactly. Oh boy, what's the deepest we've dug? Like a mile, maybe?
No, actually, but it's a lot less impressive than some people might think. 7.5 miles deep is the furthest we've gone.
That's farther than I thought.
So if we've never dug all the way through, well, how do we know what's there? Just gonna say it now. People that are smarter than us know that what's there, right? There's different measurements that we've been able to take to know kind of what's there, and it's made up of multiple factors, not just one. In the case of an earthquake, when they measure those earthquakes, the equipment that they use to measure those earthquakes only measure solid matter and don't measure liquid. So once they start hitting our gooey core, they stop getting readings from that point. That, again, that's just one thing, right? And that's, sure. God, that's dumbing it down so much.
Well, you might consider the idea of, say, the existence of gravity.
Yes.
A hollow object probably wouldn't have the gravity that this planet does, at least not according to our knowledge of the universe. Now, my favorite workaround for that is that the 800-mile thick crust. So when you get into Hollow Earth theory, you'll hear basically about this 800-mile thick crust that basically is the shell for this planet, and then you get through that, and then there's a Hollow Earth in there. That somehow that creates enough gravity on the outside and the inside, so that when you're inside the Hollow Earth, the gravity created by the shell is what keeps you from like flying into the middle of the Earth. But I don't know. I don't think that sounds right. I don't think that would actually do that, unfortunately, as much as I want that to be.
It has to have a center of some sort in order for gravity to work. That's just the way gravity works. So anyway, what we know scientifically right now is that it is impossible for the Earth to be hollow. This does not mean that the Earth is not cavernous, because it is. And we know it is because you can go right now to your nearest cavern and check it out. Like, that's real. Like, that's not, they didn't
Yeah.
make that shit. Like, you can, well, sometimes anyway, you get my point.
Yeah.
So
I've been to Mammoth Cave. That shit was
Exactly.
awesome.
There's no, and we'll kind of talk about Mammoth Cave a little bit in this episode, of course. Again, that definitely Mammoth Cave, Mount Shasta deserve their own episodes. Fucking weird, right? It doesn't mean that there's not mysteries inside of these caverns potentially. But I'm going to talk about this, and it is fun. But I have to operate on the basis that the Earth is absolutely not hollow, and until somebody proves otherwise, I have to stick to my guns. So, Tobias, you have to be the Hollow Earth advocate this episode.
I have no problem doing that. I love Hollow Earth.
So
I want to fly my biplane in the hole in the Arctic and go fucking fight some dinosaurs so bad. You have no idea.
I hope you get to live out that dream one day.
Thank you. Meet a friendly race of humanoids with advanced technology. There's nothing not to love about it.
So, aside from all of the religious rumblings of different civilizations, in the planet, probably this kind of became modernized, and the start of its popularity, I would say, started with Edmund Halley in 1692, which you've heard of this guy plenty of times because he has comets and shit named after him. I don't know if you've heard of comets in your life, but if you have, you know about Edmund Halley. He
Sounds lame. I've never heard of it.
super lame guy. Totally terrible. But he was a legit scientist, and he kind of proposed the potential that the Earth was hollow really early on. This was back in 1692. And he kind of used bad science to do it. So kind of what kicked off his curiosity about this were some abnormal compass readings that he was getting from the Atlantic Ocean. And then, of course, other strange things that happened in the world around us. And he was able to kind of explain these things away with the idea that the Earth was hollow. Now, he wasn't saying that it was like completely like a tennis ball, right? There were layers to the hollow Earth, and he believed that there was a potential for life to live amongst those layers. That is probably the easiest way I can explain that. I don't think he ever speculated on the type of life. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But again, he kind of blamed these abnormal compass readings on that, which is something that we do see in High Strangeness quite a bit, which is fun. Of course, we have New Age ideas of what causes those, but who knows? And then he also, a fun fact, blamed the aurora borealis on gases coming up from the hollow Earth and creating it somehow in our atmosphere. That was cool. That was pretty cool. So.
Right, which all goes to show that a hollow Earth exists. I'm sorry that you think you're smarter than a guy that we named a comet after. I don't see Asher's comet.
Well, that's a fair point, and I am.
That just felt mean. I don't feel good about that.
Who do we need to write to make that happen?
I don't know. Next comet I see, I'm just like, you know what? That's Asher's comet.
Asher's comet. It's the one hurtling towards us. You know what? I didn't share that in the news. We're supposed to get hit by one in 2037. I think it was.
Who cares? Oh, so, good, 2037. It's always next year, 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
It'll happen. And the one that does, Asher's comet.
Sure, fair.
But no, honestly, I don't blame the guy for having those theories. Again, at the time, that's what made sense to him. And again, ticked off some of his boxes for some things that he was researching. So not bad, just not good. It was, again, bad science. That happens. I'm not too proud to admit that science can be wrong, because it can be, and it is. That's science.
Sure. Sort of the process of discovery.
Yeah. So, that happened, and people were kind of entertaining the idea a little bit more. And as the years kind of went on a little further, other people would kind of chime in with their theories here and there. And we had some popular people, that would come and go for their time, right? And people were like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, with
it is.
With different theories. until 1818, when we had John Cleves Sims Jr. John Jr. John Jr. was not a scientist, but god damn it, he knew that the earth was hollow. And he knew for a fact, not only was it hollow, but the entrances to the inside of the earth were located both in the North Pole and the South Pole.
Obviously,
right? Really, he said, you guys just misheard these people. They didn't say North Pole, they said North Hole. And everybody was like, shit, you're right. All this time.
it's an easy mistake to make. It's understandable.
He was the guy. Like he was definitely the guy. Like he was on top of this. He was trying to raise funds. He was so serious he wanted to do an expedition at one of the poles to penetrate the earth. No other way to say it. And go exploring. But he, unfortunately never did, muster up the funds to do so. I found out that there's actually a monument to this guy that's like 40 minutes from my house, all about his fucking hollow earth shit. And I had no idea.
That's amazing.
I didn't go visit it yet, but I will. And, I'm excited to do that. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So he had some reach, but with him, like I said, he had no scientific background. He had a strictly like a military background. He was pretty much akin to, he did read a lot of books. That was his claim to fame. I read a lot of books. In 1818, that probably was really impressive. But it's still...
That's the modern day equivalent of saying, like, I did my research,
exactly.
And your research is just fucking YouTube.
Exactly. Right. He's that guy. But people liked him. So people like John Jr. How do you not like a guy named John Jr.?
I mean, pretty easily, but anyway.
So, like I said, then it continues to ebb and flow a little bit. Nobody in the scientific community is really taking it that seriously. But man, it's expanding. Not only do we have potentially hollow earths, now fucking you got John Jr. coming out with, well, there's 2 holes. We could just go in them and I could show you. And nobody took him up on that.
You gotta hear yourself when you say things like that.
Well, I'm just saying. That's what he said. I'm just quoting him.
No, getting hot in here.
That's a direct quote from John
Hollow
Jr.
Earth. Yeah, John Jr. Settle down, buddy.
And not only that, we've also got, so there are 2 different types of hollow earth. There are, convex, which is the idea that the inside of what we are standing on, you and I, has something else going on in it, right? Yeah. Maybe it's a civilization. Maybe it's just gases that create pretty lights in the sky, whatever. But there's also concave, which suggests, this is my favorite one.
It's mine too. Yeah, it's so dumb.
Suggests that we are actually living on the inside of the earth with a little sun in the middle of it.
Right. Now that's a bridge too far for me. And I love Hollow Earth, but like, we would know, it's clear and measurable for so many reasons that we live on a spheroid fucking planet. We've seen it from space. I mean, it's not arguable at this fucking point, unless you're a dipshit. I know, sorry, dipshits, but it's very fucking obvious. So the idea that we would be inside of a hollow earth right now and not know it, maybe that shit flew in the 19th century, but today, I mean, come on. I think
the idea though is that not that it's not spherical, but that it is just closed, which is even stupider. But
that's what I'm saying. But we would still know all of the ways that we know we live on the outside of a sphere would indicate to us very clearly if we lived on the inside of a sphere.
It's so ridiculous. The little sun in the middle, that just gets me.
It's the best. Now, would I love for that to exist inside of our own Earth? Absolutely. But it's obvious that we don't currently live there now.
It's just it's wild. It's so wild. I mean, I doesn't even wouldn't the sun be shining all the time if it were in the middle of okay, I'm not trying to I mean, we know, right? That's not real. Does anybody here think that's real?
That we live inside of a hollow earth and don't know it.
Yeah, I mean,
I
geez.
don't know. I feel
But
like
that's the hollow earth theory that I'm subscribing to because it's so ridiculous. So
it's the dumbest one. Yeah. I don't all of those people may have migrated to flat earth by now. It's because that's it's just the same level of dumb shittery.
flat earth floats around the space between our concave hollow earth and the sun in the middle. Is that
Sure.
why not?
Absolutely.
Why
Yeah,
not?
Jesus just rides it like a surfboard. It's amazing.
So, I mean, again, these are just some examples of kind of the history and kind of how we got here. Today, I thought maybe we could focus a little bit more on modern day um, kind of hollow earth theories and how it affects us now because it definitely affects us now. Uh, I did not, Tobias. I kind of went over my list. I told you what wasn't there. So we're either moving on next to the Admiral Byrd secret diary, or we are moving on to the Shaver mystery. I don't know. I think Byrd happened first.
It did. I think yeah, kind of. Like Bird's expeditions happened some before and then some after the Shaver mystery, but the diary didn't come out until like the 90s, or the
Way later.
so-called secret diary. So chronological order, maybe fuck, I don't know. Either one. The Shaver mystery definitely talked about Hollow Earth before people were making a connection between Admiral Byrd and Hollow Earth,
Mhm.
because the connection with Admiral Byrd and Hollow Earth started in like the 60s, but that was basically just like people who already wanted to believe in it misconstruing a bunch of shit he said to make it sound like he said or meant things that he really didn't mean, to point towards the existence of a hollow earth. And then like decades later, like in the 90s, this fucking fake ass diary comes out that supposedly has him meeting fucking woolly mammoths and shit. So I don't
So,
know, dealer's choice.
and that's why I didn't add it to the list, is because ultimately a lot of people say that this is a hoax. This is a definitive hoax. I know at one point in time I did personally look into it. And while it all points to a hoax because the diary came out so late, it was kind of hard to um, pinpoint exactly. I believe though his son put the diary out, and I believe he did it to make some money off of his dad. Which, whatever, it's your life. But in skipping over it, Tobias, do you think you can give a quick explanation of Admiral Byrd and what
Sure.
his expeditions were about?
Yeah, so I mean, Admiral Byrd was, military guy and early explorer, and he had something of an obsession with exploring the poles, which at that time were widely regarded as like one of the last great remaining mysteries on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So you had the Arctic and the Antarctic, and so. He set out to visit both over the course of decades. Like this was not easy. He started by trying to visit the North Pole in the 1920s. You can imagine what that shit must have been like, right? And initially, I mean, everybody thought he made it. Everybody thought he was the first person to make it, actually flying over the North Pole. Now, later in the 90s, I think it was 91, an actual legit lost diary of his came out that was authenticated, and that seems to imply strongly that maybe he didn't quite make it all the way to the North Pole, and maybe he just fibbed a little bit about how close he got. But I wasn't there, so I'll let him have this one. But anyway, And so, yeah, later on, he would be a part of several expeditions to like the Antarctic, and yeah, I mean, it was fairly impressive stuff. And the conspiracy theories surrounding his involvement with Hollow Earth started pretty quickly. So by the 1960s, like his final Antarctic mission ended in I think 1956. And by the late 60s, there's already a book out basically talking about how he had discovered the fucking Hollow Earth. But it was mostly based on, well, wishful thinking and then misinterpreting things that he had said in a way that pointed towards the existence of Hollow Earth. But if you have to deliberately misinterpret what people are saying, then that's not really fucking strong evidence, right? Like maybe just don't do that and wait for real evidence. But the idea was that in flying over the North Pole, he actually flew over the lip of the Hollow Earth because there's supposed to be like a 1,400-mile wide hole in both poles, and if you fly over the lip of it without realizing it, you'll find yourself in the Hollow Earth because again, gravity works on both sides, and it's always pulling things towards the crust, no matter what side you're on. So it's not like you just walk over and then fall. No, you're adhering to the crust. Like that's the force that gravity pushes you towards. Anyway, so like he flew over the lip, and that's where he saw a bunch of weird shit that supposedly in this diary that came out later that's not real.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Like Admiral Byrd himself was never advocated for the existence of the fucking Hollow Earth. He was just a regular old explorer. Like he was just a regular guy who really wanted to explore shit. And then a bunch of other people were just like, hey, we can use this guy's real expeditions as evidence for our hokey nonsense, right? Oh, great. Let's do it. So.
Yeah. And you know, it's unfortunate because the guy was an explorer, you guys. Like that was his job.
Oh yeah, you legitimately did.
Like explore and discover things. Like if this actually happened, like he would have spent even if he got laughed out of town, would have spent the rest of his days as a laughing stock, you know, because again, dude believed in the shit he was doing. You know?
Right.
He legitimately like had a reason to believe in it. I mean, some people try to chalk it up to, well, it was covered up. Why would it be covered up? Like that doesn't.
Well, because of, and this shit deserves its own episode, which we should totally do. But it has to do with the Antarctic episode, discovering Agartha, which some people may have heard of, which is a land that exists inside the Hollow Earth, supposedly, and a secret Nazi UFO base, which was responsible for a bunch of flying saucer sightings. So obviously you have to cover that up because of reasons.
I think that it would be neat. Not that Nazis are neat, but I think it would be neat to do an episode about Nazis. Because they are definitely to blame for a lot of the more woo stuff out there in the paranormal. Not just that. They definitely had a lot of weird, like, woo beliefs, and the way that they conducted themselves was just, I mean, they were just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what would stick.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
They were doing it all, you know, and, it is particularly interesting. But of course, we've all heard that the Nazis have a secret base at Antarctica, with no evidence, to that. So,
well, they certainly had interest in that area.
they did,
and there's
we
no
did too.
doubt.
Yeah.
Well, of course, of course we did. We absolutely did. And there's certainly evidence that they mounted their own expeditions there,
Yeah.
right? That's inarguable. But yeah, like the idea that they had a secret base in the Hollow Earth that was shooting out fucking flying saucers. Yeah, I mean, that probably isn't real. Safe bet.
But you know what? Honestly, I'll be keep it 100 with you guys. I'll be so for real, like the kids say. I haven't done my research on it like that. You know what I mean? I really haven't. So I don't know. Maybe there is something more to it that I don't know. I've been doing this for a while, and usually stuff like this, it's usually a big nothing burger, but fucking I'll give it the time of day one of these days. Why not?
Sure, I would love to do a whole episode on Admiral Byrd and secret Nazi UFO bases in Antarctica and
In
shit.
that time period. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Well, because it is important, because it feeds into today, which we are getting to. I
Right.
promise.
This is, I mean, like, the thing is, we literally cannot go into the amount of
No.
detail that every single aspect of this story deserves, because each one would be its own episode, which is why I'm telling you, like, this episode is a really, really cool overview. And I think it'll be a nice introduction to Hollow Earth for people, but it's got to lead to like fucking 8 more episodes on every specific aspect of this.
Yeah, this is it's just barely scratching the surface. So I think this topic has been on the schedule before, and we've scrapped it and had to re-add it because it's a lot to research.
Yeah.
For a show that comes out week after week,
Well, I've been doing this my whole life because I've always loved fucking Hollow Earth.
Your first words were Hollow Earth.
It was, yeah, it's true.
I believe that.
I only learned to walk so I could try to make it to the North Pole and into Hollow Earth.
I believe that about you. So I kind of learned, we're going to kind of move on to the next thing. The next thing, of course, is going to be the shaver mystery. Again, quick notes on that.
Yes.
But what I love about this is that I know that you know your shit about this and was like doing research. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let Tobias handle this one. So don't disappoint me. You know your shit about this.
All right. Well, I mean, I can talk about it a little bit. Sure. So the Shaver Mystery, this is one of my favorites. I'm actually looking at my copy of the Shaver Mystery over on the bookshelf right now because it caught my eye. But for anybody interested, there was a guy, mid-century America, named Richard Shaver, right? It's okay if you've never heard of him. But he seemed to think that he was in contact with beings that lived beneath the earth. And I'll try to keep this as short as possible. And that furthermore, he had occasion to travel into the earth to spend time with some of these beings. And so the most important among them were the Deros. And Deros is an abbreviation of detrimental robot. So, right. So apparently these beings were like biological robots, and they would, through the use of rays, manipulate humanity. And so, Shaver would have, anytime something bad would happen to him, he would blame it on, being shot with one of these Deros rays, and definitely not on being schizophrenic, which is what he actually was. And this came to the attention of Amazing Stories and later Fate magazine pioneer Ray Palmer. And Ray Palmer started publishing Shaver's stories in Amazing Stories magazine. I actually have a copy, an OG copy from the 40s of the very first appearance of the Shaver Mysteries in Amazing Stories magazine. I believe the first story was called I Remember Lemuria. And it basically is a bunch of crazy pulp nonsense about an underground civilization of kind of maybe weird aliens, or maybe not. Maybe they've always been here. We're not sure. The lore changes. And I don't know. I guess how much deeper do we need to get into the Shaver Mystery right now?
The Shaver Mystery also deserves its own episode.
It really,
alongside
really
Amazing Stories, right? So these are all important events. Admiral Byrd, the Nazis, the Shaver Mystery, are all related, kind of, because it was happening like bam, 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 not that because people, when Admiral Byrd went on his mission, they weren't really talking about Hollow Earth then. We covered that, right? They didn't really start talking about his experience with Hollow Earth until way later, the 90s, right? But if we're going to let it hold any weight at all, and if we're going to look at things like, well, historically, there's always been an underground world, or whatever, then we have to look at things that we can at least kind of tangibly look at. So even though it's all bullshit, this is super important because this is where it starts to leak out into um, ufological history, really, right? And we know that because during the same time that, like, the shaver, I guess that's the thing we probably should mention about the shaver mystery. This was all presented as like fact. Like,
Yeah, well, it kind of started as like fictional stories, but then Shaver's just like, no, this is actually all real. Like this
yeah,
all really happened.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Which,
it's
well, I
weird.
was going to say, which isn't that abnormal when it comes to hollow earth dwelling beings, because in the early I think it was 1904 or something, a book came out. It's called The Smoky God. And it was also presented as fact, as somebody's real experience with things that live in the earth. And, again, there's so much to this, but when did the shaver mystery start coming out?
This would have been in the 40s. I want to say like 47. I guess I can look at. Hold on, I got this copy of Amazing Stories right next to me.
Sure.
So
Well,
let's see. I
wait.
remember Lemuria came out. It doesn't have a date on it.
Oh
I'd have to
no.
Google it. It's definitely from the 1940s, and I can't take the issue out of its holder because it will literally crumble into dust.
That's
Uh,
okay. Yeah, don't do
right?
that.
No, I mean it's a pulp magazine,
Right.
and they call them that because they were made out of the cheapest possible paper, which
Yeah.
is just like fucking wood pulp,
Yeah.
and they don't stand up to time super well.
It'll literally, yeah, it'll disintegrate. Don't don't do
Oh
that
yeah.
to yourself. But it definitely happened in the 40s. And what else definitely happened in the 40s?
Nothing important. Can't think of one thing.
I know, right? Nothing at all. Um, God, what didn't happen in the fucking 40s? You know what I mean?
Right.
We had, of course, World War II, where Nazis are doing all their weird bullshit. And not just that, the government, any government, is doing a lot of experiments on so much shit. We had a huge technological boom in the form of aircraft and the way that we kind of understand the world a little bit and all this. We also had some of the most historical events in ufological history. Kenneth Arnold with his flying saucer, which we know wasn't actually flying saucers because you listen to that episode story. We had the Roswell crash, where actual government officials were saying, yes, a UFO just crashed and we have it. So much shit. It was a huge, huge time for ufology.
Sure. I mean, just for the world. I mean,
Yeah.
World War
Period.
II,
Yeah, yeah.
the creation of the atom bomb, the bomb being used, twice.
Yeah.
Like that's a
Right.
huge deal. Like there was all kinds of crazy stuff fueling people's anxieties, and um, I think expanding their imagination, or at least the number of things that they were willing or capable of imagining grew exponentially. Imagine going from the 1930s, the depression, not exactly a time of historic technological leaps, although there was progress made, so don't come at me, history nerds. I know. um, but like going from that to like this post-war economy and everything that kind of got you there, including these crazy fantastic leaps in technology, like harnessing the power of the atom. Like that's a big deal. Of course people start seeing UFOs everywhere. All of a sudden that shit seems completely possible. If we can harness the destructive power of the atom, then why can't Martians fucking come here in flying saucers? Why not? Maybe. We're only a couple decades away from doing that ourselves. I'm sure of it.
Well, some people took that and went, well, why can't Martians live inside of our planet?
True. Why can't they?
Why can't they? Probably because the magma, and it's pretty spicy down
No,
there.
they just live in the hollow part,
They
like the
just
hollow center.
oh yeah, that's right. Not the actual sun in the middle of it.
No,
That would be stupid.
right? Come on, use your brain.
Um, we had just a lot of things happening culturally, economically, social. I mean, there was just so much going on at the time. And, ufology was no stranger to that. And like you said, we had people now thinking that, the impossible is now possible because we were doing things that were seemingly impossible at that time. So why not? If like you said, if we can, control the atom, if we can understand that and how that works, why not aliens? And this has all kind of continued to, not very popularly, but it has all kind of continued to, I don't know, they got married, right? Hollow Earth and UFOs got married at some point and started a
Yes,
relationship.
crypto terrestrials and such.
Oh, God. So, and such. Pre 1940s, and this is something that we'll kind of talk about. I think an upcoming case we have on this show, I think it's next week, is about kind of an ancient potential contactee situation. But we did have stories of strange things in the sky. It's not that it was impossible. So the idea that aliens are coming to planet Earth makes sense because they're zooming around in their aircraft. Sometimes people straight up see them coming from the sky, right? So where the hell else are they coming from? But I would say there's been a lot of fringe on top of fringe researchers that have come out throughout the years. But I feel like in the 80s, it started to become a really popular concept, mostly because of people like John Keel spouting off that the aliens are already here, right? They're not coming from somewhere. They're already here.
Right. You could look at even earlier stuff from the 50s. Now it's not, this is fringe stuff, but
Yeah.
like, if like Gray Barker in They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, and Albert Bender in oh boy, what was his book called? Something in the Three Men. I don't remember. But for anybody listening, Albert K. Bender, he's sort of the progenitor of Men in Black.
Yeah.
Like he was the OG guy. Well, that's not necessarily true because you can go to the Maury Island incident, which was before Albert Bender, but he was the one that really he added all the high strangeness stuff, and I think he popularized Men in Black in a way that we definitely hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you can go to those works and you'll see them talking about the idea that this is coming from inside of Earth instead of the cosmos, somewhere.
Yeah. Well, right. When you put all those pieces together, so Bender was totally into UFOs. He had the UFO newsletter, or whatever it was, on print at the time. I
Right.
can't remember the name. Some organization that he had.
Was his saucer watch
I don't think
or the Saucerian?
so. I feel
I
like
don't
it
know.
was long, like a longer name.
I literally I wrote about it not that long ago
Right.
in a book that's coming out this year, and I just do not remember off the top of my head. I would have to go try to find my manuscript.
I give a lecture on the Men in Black, and I can't think of it. At the top of my head.
We did it.
We are good. We are good at what we do.
Oh, it was Flying Saucers and the Three Men was the name of his book.
The name of his book, and that book's like $400 for the original copy. It's insane. I saw it once with my own.
This is what
eyes.
you do. You just go to like archives.org or whatever, and because that's what I did. I've read it. I read it for free online because you can read all that shit for free online these days.
Well, but how cool would I be in the UFO world if I could say that I had a real copy? I might get like 20 likes from UFO Twitter about that. You know what I mean? So
true.
If I spent $400 on a book that I could read for free from a guy who's dead.
Space Review.
Space Review? Is that what it was called?
I think that's what his
It might have been Space Review. That sounds goofy enough. Anyway.
Right. I thought it was like sauce. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm sure the Saucerian is real. I couldn't tell you whose it is, but I'm sure it
That might be
exists.
Gray Barker's, actually.
It could be. That sounds like a Gray Barker. Anyway, the point is, when he was kind of talking about UFOs initially and all that stuff, I mean, it was all like they're coming from another planet, whatever. But then, like, when these mysterious beings started, coming to him, he never really clarified on the details, but they were giving him knowledge. And it was that knowledge that kind of made him freak out, close up shop on the newsletter, and then never talk about it again until he talked to Gray Barker, and Gray Barker put it in the book.
Right.
But he still never really, went on to explain, but kind of hinted at that it's even weirder than we could even imagine, which checks out. That rubs me the right way. I enjoy that a lot.
Sure.
But can I say that it's because they're coming from our own planet? I don't love that. That rubs me not the right way. That rubs me the wrong way, if I could. So anyway, during the 80s, this kind of it's not a new concept, but John Keel definitely made it a little bit more popular with the idea that aliens weren't necessarily from outer space. They could be from outer space sometimes, but sometimes maybe they're not. Sometimes they're here and they just live here and we just can't perceive them, basically.
He would talk shit about people who thought that aliens came from outer space. He would there were two kinds of people he talked shit about in everything from like the Eighth Tower to Operation Trojan Horse to the Mothman prophecies. If you thought that UFOs and aliens came from outer space, and if you thought that there was a like parapsychological or spiritual or whatever you want to call it origin to ghosts and hauntings, then he just thought you were a fucking idiot. And I can't speak for him as a human being in real life, but in those works, he makes it pretty clear, at least at the time of that writing, that he thought those people were pretty fucking dim bulbs.
Yeah, at that time, right? John Keel, his opinion, it just depends on when you read his stuff.
Right.
But yeah, no, he just hated everybody who thought anything else. Besides what he thought at that point in time, whatever that point in time was.
Whenever he was writing that book, like if you believed anything other than what he was writing, he was just like, well, you are a fucking idiot. So I don't know, dude, just fucking fuck off, I guess.
And I hate you. So there's that.
Right. Good luck being an idiot for the rest of your life. I don't know what to tell you.
Which is why some people definitely take issue with John Keel. He didn't have, he had very extreme stances throughout his career. But, of course, when we think of John Keel now, one of the things that we think about is the ultra terrestrial, which is of course what we're talking about. But then somebody took that and then made it fucking weirder with the crypto terrestrial idea.
Yes.
So, my God, we're an hour and a half in, and I just feel like we're like just now getting into it.
There's so much.
Oh my God.
It's a big topic.
So, crypto terrestrials are the gist. There's a book that you can read. I believe it's called Crypto Terrestrial. I think. Maybe it's not called that. I think it is, though.
It is the Crypto Terrestrials. I have it on my bookshelf.
Yeah,
I spot it.
Yeah.
I don't see it from where I'm sitting, but I know it's up there somewhere.
So this book comes out in I believe this was the early 2000s. It's fairly new.
Yeah. Well, okay. Keep in mind the early 2000s was 20 years ago.
What?
I know.
Really?
No, I fucking hate it too.
God, I guess you're right. Fuck. It's a quarter of a century ago. Anyway.
Uh-huh.
Fuck. So, but with all the shit we're talking about, it's fairly new. Okay, folks? It's fairly new.
In the grand scheme of things, yes.
It's pretty new.
In geologic time, absolutely.
Not necessarily the first time that we have ever heard these theories placed. But basically, a crypto terrestrial, pretty much it's that everything weird that happens because of beings that live inside of the hollow earth and aliens, and everything comes from our planet, in the middle of our planet. It's a sister civilization that doesn't necessarily expose itself to us fully.
Right. But so what separates it from ultra terrestrials is, instead of being weird energy beings that, just take whatever form they feel like because they're weird energy beings, the crypto terrestrials are flesh and blood beings. Like, they are otherwise like biologically recognizable. They just happen to live inside the earth and have super advanced technology.
Yes. It's like it's Atlantis, but in the earth.
Right.
And it's just gotten way out of hand. You guys, this has gotten out of hand.
No, it's never been more in hand.
What are we doing? What is this? I've read it. I've read the book. It's been a couple of years since I've read it. I was pretty new, back when I read it, and of course I was like, well, that's new and novel and very interesting.
That shit, people were talking about that shit in the 1920s.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not that new. It is interesting. It's something different, I suppose. But I'm seeing this spread further and further. It didn't help that the guy who wrote the book kind of died, not super unexpectedly, but he did, and at an early age. And I've definitely seen people conspire about that, which is unfortunate. Because
I have friends who were friends with Mac, and so I'm not going to talk any shit about that dude. I did not know him.
No, I didn't know him either.
I have good friends of mine who were friends with him, and so I bet he was a solid dude. The way that most people that I know explain the crypto terrestrials is as a sort of thought experiment, not necessarily something to be taken at face value, but rather just an idea to explore, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and when we're talking about the unexplained anyway, look, it's fine to explore and theorize, fucking none of us are right. If we were right, then we wouldn't be doing this podcast. Or we would be doing it and we'd be able to present you facts, and it's just not the way it is. As far as like just concerning like his death and stuff like that goes, I don't want to hear none of that shit about how he was killed by the government or whatever. I don't want to hear none of that.
Oh, yeah, fuck right off with that. Come on.
Yeah, just let the guy rest in peace, goddammit, and that's something that I see continuously. But with the new, where this has kind of started to regain some traction again, with the UAP stuff, with the UAP disclosure movement, I guess, Project Blue Balls, people are now starting to take a new vested interest in the idea of UFOs coming from like the ocean and shit.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, isn't new. We've had USOs forever.
True.
That's always kind of been around as long as you want to. But now people are, I feel like I'm definitely seeing an uptick in people subscribing more to this idea that aliens don't come from space, because what seems more logical? Aliens being able to terrestrially traverse space in a craft and get here, or them already being here and coming in and out of caverns in the ocean to be here, right? They're just here automatically. That's not a far trip compared to like you're talking about, somebody in a different fucking galaxy, in a different fucking way far away. That doesn't make as much sense. I'm not here to tell you that the aliens are coming from fucking Middle Earth or Hollow Earth or whatever.
I wish they were coming from Middle Earth. It's just a bunch of hobbits.
That'd be sweet. That'd be hobbits are nice. That
explains why they're so short. They're just hobbits.
That does explain it.
They're
like, they just look really weird, and you're like, oh, hobbit. I knew it.
Yeah, that's what it is. They're just hobbits.
But I'm not here to say whether or not that's the case. I find it very unlikely. I think that it's probably more of a case of, I don't think aliens are traveling here terrestrially. And I understand why people are skeptical of that, because we all watched Interstellar. You can't just jump in a ship and travel to another planet. It didn't work that way. Beyond reason, right? We have our own solar system. But yeah, it takes so long. How would they do it? Well, probably because obviously it's because they are some type of interdimensional being and they're able to time hop. Time means nothing to aliens, clearly, you know? And that's a fact.
Right. You can take that to the bank.
We're the only species in the whole universe who operates on time. Everybody else doesn't. We're fucking
Sure.
way far behind. And we don't even
Right.
have our own time correct with our fucking daylight savings time bullshit.
Ugh,
That's proof right
it's just
there.
the worst. And that's coming up too.
It is.
I don't even want to think about
Spring
it.
forward, fuck you.
Right? Can we just we need to just
Bring
stop.
this.
Right?
So that's kind of, just to quickly get you all caught up to speed, that's kind of where we are now. Tobias, what do you think about people having these theories today?
Now, I haven't heard a lot about modern hollow earth theory, or I should say I haven't heard a lot about hollow earth theory in the modern era. So it's been a long time since I've heard somebody claim that UFOs were a result of something coming from inside of the hollow earth. I would not at all be surprised for us to get back there, because I think a lot of what we are seeing, really pretty much everything that we're seeing out of the quote unquote disclosure movement, is just a rehashing of previous ideas. And they'll cycle through everything until they get to Hollow Earth or something, and then they'll cycle through that until they get on to the next thing. And so it seems to be a very sort of populist movement in that way, where they're just trying to tell people kind of what they think they want to hear. And it's a really cool, interesting idea. So it would not at all surprise me if that's one that they ended up falling back on, because I mean, look at the things we've already seen come out. Like, it started with very seemingly credible, straightforward reports of encounters between military pilots and craft that they could not identify. And in the almost 8 years since, we have gone from that to basically running through ufology's greatest hits. We have gone through government cover-ups again. We've gone through secret crash retrieval programs again. We've gone through all of that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll be back to like secret underground bases, and then eventually like crypto terrestrial and hollow earth stuff. It's got to be on the list eventually. So yeah, I mean, we'll get back there with the disclosure movement, but that doesn't lend credibility to Hollow Earth. That should just continue exposing the so-called disclosure movement as government propaganda, which is what it probably is. I would assume that because the government has done this since the fucking 40s, is the easiest way to keep people from finding out something you don't want them to know is just to lead them on wild goose chases all the time. And so if they're worried that there is an element within our culture that might be snooping around, or basically sticking their nose where it doesn't belong, or otherwise being a nuisance, getting into trouble, then it's a lot easier for them to just be like, oh yeah, no, you just look over here, here's where all the answers are. And then you just distract them endlessly, and thus render them useless, which is kind of what it seems like is going on with our hashtag disclosure. So yeah, I know that's not a popular idea, but I don't know. I mean, the truth often isn't, right?
Well, it's okay. I didn't come here to piss on everybody's parade. Okay. I know that you probably think that. I know, listener, you probably hate me, but I am not bought and paid for. My opinion is not bought and paid for by Project Blue Balls. I do have something that you're going to enjoy. It's not all UFOs, right? Hollow Earth is certainly not all UFOs, and it's certainly not just underground Atlantean civilizations. I told you we'd kind of talk about Mammoth Cave a little bit, right? This is kind of the portion where we're going to get in there. What's so special about crypto-terrestrial? What's so different about it? I don't know, crypto. That's kind of new, right? So people have endless theories about cryptids and their involvement in the Hollow Earth stuff, and we haven't really talked about that at all. See, it's not just the UFO community. The cryptozoologists also pose some theories that maybe some of these creatures live in these underground cave systems, and therefore that's why we're not really finding them. That's why we're struggling to find them. Not that there's necessarily anything supernatural to it, just that, I did admit, and I'll stand by it, the earth is cavernous, and it is. When we talk about Mammoth Cave, I think the furthest anybody's ever gotten into Mammoth Cave, and maybe this has changed since then, but it's been 500 miles, and there was more.
Oh, it's absolutely bonkers. Like, being down in there is a really amazing experience, actually. I can't recommend it enough. Like, if you're anywhere near Kentucky where you can get to Mammoth Cave, like, definitely go visit. The camping there is great. Park rangers are nice. The tours are fucking fantastic. And you'll see some of the most amazing cave structures on the planet, so nothing not to like. And probably you'll get abducted by a family of Bigfoot and live with them for the weekend. I can't promise that, but I also can't say it won't happen.
As long as you take a picture of his penis, that's all we care about.
Yeah, what's that dick look like? Is it an innie or an outie? My money's on innie.
Bigfoot's gonna pull out they're gonna reveal their any dick, and the person's gonna be like, Tobias was right.
Yeah. Weird dog dick. I knew it.
But I mean, that's 500 miles ain't nothing to fuck with. Like, that's kind of a big deal, y'all.
Yeah, if you get lost down there, you die.
And that's the thing about it, is that it's not really a sustainable trek. So it's difficult to explore. When you go and climb Mount Everest, like, yeah, it's fucking dangerous, but like, we have helicopters.
What?
Yeah, we do. Someone can come get you or whatever. Like, if that's
so
what
we need in underground helicopters. That's what I'm hearing.
And yes, perfect. Exactly. Underground helicopters. We need to fucking market that shit. This is $1 billion idea right here.
Right.
But really, it's not like it's a very simple to do to rescue your ass from Mammoth Cave, or any of these giant. This is just one of very, very many cave systems that are found all around the entire world that are vast and go not completely unexplored because they're huge tourist attractions, but haven't been explored enough. Much like, you guys always talk about the mysteries of the ocean. Well, why the fuck aren't we talking about the mysteries of the caves and the mountains? Because there's plenty there, I'm sure. So, of course, people have these theories that these things, may live. There's a theory of like the pale crawlers, right? The weird looking things from the Descent movie, right?
Right.
I hate to bring it up, but that one show that everybody's always talking about, they have their goblins. People love talking, associating that. Even like the Kentucky goblins, the old Hopkinsville goblins case, potentially they crawled out of the earth, right? Maybe they didn't come from space at all. Maybe they came from the earth.
Maybe, although, I mean, it started with the UFO sighting.
It did. And
if UFOs come from inside the earth, then I guess that makes sense.
Right. Well, and they were made out of metal. But that one guy said that there was robots in there. So, I don't know. The shaver guy, the guy that shaves.
Right. But those were biological robots. It doesn't matter. It's made up.
Biological robots, which is an oxymoron. But okay. So, I mean, there's tons of theories in that regard. And then, of course, people kind of offshoot. And that's where they lose me. We've got the whole missing 411 thing, and we're gonna talk about that one day. But it when you start looking at the facts of some of these offshoot theories about what's going on with the caves, then it starts falling apart a little bit.
Don't you bring facts into this.
I know, right? People don't come here for the facts. Jeez.
Yeah, that is the last thing people want to hear in this fucking field. Facts. Come on.
I know. What's that? But it does. It starts very quickly falling apart because if one thing is true, then this has to be true and that has to be true. And people just love to like disregard that because then they go, okay, well, the cryptids are coming from the hollow earth. Well, the earth's not hollow. They could be coming from caves. That's valid. But when you start throwing shit out there like they came from hollow earth, well, you're not doing a good job. You're not jobbing very well.
Well, let me tell you what doesn't exist in these caves, and that is the kind of advanced technology that people are reporting or speculating that is a part of things like certain secret crypto-terrestrial civilizations. So it still doesn't make sense. There's also, these caves are not entirely explored. That is true. They are largely explored.
Yeah.
And there is, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, no fucking evidence at all from any legitimate, credible person exploring these fucking caves. Like, no park rangers or anything really that I have seen has ever come back with legitimate, credible evidence of the existence of any sort of anomalous entity or being. None, zero, not
anything, right? Alien, cryptid, anything.
Sure.
Feral human. None of that. It doesn't mean that weird stuff doesn't happen in these places or surrounding these places. I mean, there's plenty of stories of the Crosswick Monster. That's one of my favorites, which is kind of a local legend of two boys that were attacked by a 30-foot long reptile, basically pretty much a giant salamander that when the town confronted it, ran off in two legs and ran off into the nearest cave and was never seen from ever again. The Van Meter visitor. Same situation when the town, after being terrorized by this creature for, so many weeks, went to go hunt this thing down, and they found it at the mouth of a not a cave necessarily, but a mine, right, underground, and shot it and it just fucking walked back into the mine and was never seen from again. Sure, and then we talked about that. Oh my god, I can't remember his fucking name. The guy that went missing, the M cave situation. He went missing looking for that cave, but we, theorized on that. Could have been a million other things. Could have been anomalous. We don't know. We weren't there. Fortunately, we haven't found him still. There are weird things that happen around this stuff. Is there something to it? We don't know. It's fun to speculate, and that's okay. But there's a lot of people that really want to die on some hills, and that's certainly a choice. Not one I would make, but it is one.
Right. Well, it's just when it comes to things like cave structures too, I mean, they're vast, but not vast in the same sense that our largest forests are vast. You know what I mean? They're still largely finite structures. And there have been new species discovered in these caves, and that is really, really interesting. And it's obviously very cool whenever that happens. But the idea that there could be any kind of organized civilization living undiscovered in these cave systems is, I mean, it's fairly ludicrous, unfortunately. And that's not the answer that I want, but it's where we are. There's just the space limitations alone, and the idea that something like that could remain undiscovered, even in something like Mammoth Cave, for instance, is it's just so unlikely, you guys. Yeah. I mean, again, obviously, I can't say for sure that doesn't happen. And I can't say for sure that there aren't monsters living in caves somewhere, but what caves, where, is still the question, So before we get ahead of ourselves and start claiming that we know things definitively about who is living in what cave, uh, we have a lot of fucking work to do.
Yeah. I mean, and look at the shit that we do discover in the caves. Like they're not. I don't want to. They're not stupid, but they're kind of stupid. I mean, they're like blind and shit. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
will
Yeah,
get
weird little
cancer
blind
from
insects and
touching
stuff.
the sun, like because they're not used to that. You know what I mean? Like they're not.
Right.
So when you're talking about like Bigfoot, who hunters see, and some people are saying is super intelligent and super this and that and the other, like that motherfucker is not 90% of the time living in a cave.
Right.
Now if you want to say that maybe they create dens in caves like bears do, sure, but like how many bears do we see out in the wild? I mean, enough to know that bears are real.
Right, but also like what dens where in which caves?
Right, exactly. So he's not living in the caves. Can he sleep there sometimes? Yeah, I would. If it's fucking raining outside, it's cold. Go make you a leaf blanket, right? Curl up in a cave. But as far as I know, he can see pretty well. I don't, maybe not. I mean, it looked like Patty could see them filming her. Like that's, I assumed she was anyway. You get my point.
Yeah. No, I do.
The stuff that we're finding in caves are very different than us that live here, and they're just not superior. Like if it's between me and a stupid bat that can't see anything, I'm going full Aussie on that bat, and I'm biting its fucking head off, and it's not going to do anything because it's
It might
stupid.
have rabies.
It
And
could
now
have
you
rabies.
have rabies, and rabies is almost 100% fatal. So
That's
who really
true.
wins?
Joke's on me.
Yeah.
The long
That's
con.
right.
Fuck you, bats.
Yeah, bats win again.
I love bats, but
They are very cute.
they
Actually,
are very cute. No, I'm just saying it just it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, why would they continue to live their life inside of the Earth if they're so smart and advanced and not come out here and be like,
because the hollow Earth is awesome. It has its own sun and lush vegetation. Hollow Earth. That's why they don't come out. Because they're like, oh, Hollow Earth is beautiful jungle island, but a whole Earth.
and that's why they're not abducting people from the forest. They're just telling people, they're like, hey, I got this really cool place you should check out, and then people go and they're like, well, I'm not fucking leaving. This is
Right. Look, the only way any of this makes sense is by explaining it in a way that doesn't make sense. Like the only way crypto-terrestrials make sense is if the hollow Earth is real. And the hollow Earth, as much as my pulp action horror loving heart wants it to be fucking real, probably is not real. Almost certainly is not fucking real. And so, yeah, obviously we don't have advanced fucking civilizations living in caves, Of course they don't. No, why would they? That's crazy.
Yeah.
We would know. So, yeah, in order for there to be an advanced civilization living underground, the hollow Earth would have to be real, but the hollow Earth probably isn't real. Ergo, there are not advanced civilizations living underground, you guys.
And there's so much more. I mean, again, this is barely even scratching the surface. The potential that the hollow Earth population is there because of whatever other reason. The boy from Mars, which is a super interesting case, he talked about the Earth, how he was reincarnated from the Mars. Anyway, he's a Martian. They lived underground because they destroyed the outside atmosphere, so they ended up migrating to underground. And but like, why would the hollow Earth people on planet Earth just let us just sit back while we fucking destroy the planet? There's so much. There's so much. So throw us your whataboutisms, right? If you think you can counter any of these arguments, if you think you got something that might change our minds about this, send it to us. And I mean, we'll cover it on an episode. We'll talk about it. We'll give it the time of day. I mean, nothing is, I'm not going to say nothing's impossible, but a few things are impossible.
You guys, I'm halfway to believing in the hollow Earth anyway, because I just want it to be real so bad. So
a crumb of evidence.
It's not. I'm not putting up that much of a fight, really. It's just, what we have now doesn't necessarily point towards the objective reality of any sort of hollow Earth. But like I said, we've got several other episodes that we're going to have to do about this because every specific aspect of it is so deep and interesting.
Yeah.
That it definitely is worth covering. And as far as like things living underground, yeah, I don't know, maybe, is it possible that there are alien bases or whatever the equivalent for an alien base would be for an ultra terrestrial or a crypto terrestrial or something? Yeah, sure, maybe. I don't know. The world's a big fucking place. Like, I guess. Or underneath the ocean. Yeah, okay. Ocean's largely unexplored. Sure, maybe. I don't fucking know. Those are all ideas that I am more than willing to entertain. I just would not speak of them in any certain terms because we don't actually know that to be true.
Yeah. Right. At the end of the day. We didn't even talk about fucking Agartha and... Yeah.
That's its own thing. Agartha should get rolled into the Admiral Byrd and Nazi UFO episode.
It's crazy. There is so much, and it's a lot, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun. Again, I love the sun being on the inside. That sounds really cool. But here we are, and again, yeah. We'll cover some of these topics more in depth. This is probably the simplest way I think we could explain it in 2 hours. So you're welcome. For that,
it's a nice introduction to Hollow Earth. Yeah.
Whew. And it is a lot of ground. But again, if there's something specific you guys want to hear, let us know. We both have social media. You can find us on there. You can email us on WednesdaysWeTalkWeird@gmail.com. We have a phone number, 773-59-WEIRD. Call, leave us a message. Tell us your thoughts on Hollow Earth. And if you want us to go on a Hollow Earth expedition and go to one of the poles, okay, to go insert ourselves in one of the holes at the poles. That's what we're going to call it. You know what? If you want to help us create a festival called Hole at the Pole, then you need to go to patreon.com/WednesdaysTalk and help us fund this, because that's going to be very expensive.
They are pricey, yeah.
But we'll do it. If enough people subscribe, we will have Hole at the Pole, and we'll get fucking bands to play. There'll be food. Who doesn't want that? So just saying, patreon.com/WednesdaysTalk. Tobias, you have final thoughts on the Hollow Earth?
Oh God, so many, just all racing simultaneously through my mind. No, I mean, just for this episode, I would really probably just reiterate what has already been said, in that I do love Hollow Earth. It's one of my favorite sort of unexplained mysteries, if we are still allowed to call it that, given everything we know about the composition of the Earth now. But I think that even if you have solved the mystery of Earth, that is to say, how it came about and what's inside of it, or anything else, that doesn't invalidate interest in subjects like Hollow Earth, because, for instance, just immediately, we don't really know. And I know that makes me sound like an asshole and the kind of person that I would generally disagree with, but there is always that slight possibility that there is some strange, undiscovered phenomenon that is taking place that allows for the existence of something that is seemingly impossible. Now, I don't think that we should bank on that, and it shouldn't be a core belief, but it does make it, I think, still worth speculating about. But even beyond that, even setting that aside, the existence of interest in the Hollow Earth, I think, it's okay for that to exist, irrespective of the objective reality behind it, because there's a whole history of belief here, and it touches every era of humanity, for whatever reason, there is a deep connection between us and whatever is going on beneath our feet. And I think that speaks to the natural curiosity of our species. I think it speaks to our ability to imagine and tell stories and to believe in things outside of ourselves. All of these things that are wonderful about humanity. And with everything else going on in the fucking world today, if you are entertained by stories of the hollow earth, and if just believing in them just a little bit helps you get through it, I say, why the fuck not? Just do it. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, not sponsored by Nike, unfortunately.
Correct. No, not yet.
Not yet, or they'd sponsor Hole at the Pole, you know?
It's true. Hole at the Pole 2026.
2026. Be there. Or be square, I guess, because you're not going to be in the circular hole with the rest of us.
You won't be a crypto terrestrial. I know that.
Yeah, that's not how you get there. So I think I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, some of the stuff is it's just fun to be fun, and that's totally okay with that. You know, if you're not hurting anybody else, that's okay. You know, Tobias, you've kind of talked about before how some of these beliefs can certainly be a slippery slope into other things. You know, don't be that guy. Don't let it be your slippery slope. Don't let fucking Hollow Earth of all things be your slippery slope. At least make it something cool if you're going to go that route. But no, seriously. I mean, you know, I've said it before. I'll say it again. You know, Loch Ness Monster, it's a plesiosaur. It's still alive, even though the loch formed after plesiosaurs were long extinct. I don't care.
Sure, whatever.
Don't you come at me with your facts, like we said earlier. No facts here, you know?
There's just such a vast difference between being willing to entertain an idea and investing belief in it. And
Yes.
I think that we both come down on the being willing to entertain an idea, especially if that idea is entertaining side of this stuff. But you can't let it color your actual beliefs in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's when the slope becomes very slippery, and you do not want to slide down that.
No, it's not a good time. It's not a party. There's no crypto-terrestrial at the end of that rainbow. Just a lot of mostly ruined friendships. So
yeah, I mean,
there's
you
that.
know, probably financial trouble, I would imagine. Yeah, just nothing good.
It's not good. But yeah, definitely we'll circle back to some of these topics, you know, at a later date and, you know, pick them apart a little more meticulously, individually. But hopefully this got you through. Hopefully this, you know, scratched that itch that you had for the Hollow Earth. I know you guys were itching, so. We covered a lot of ground today, but there's still more, and there will be more at a later date. We'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
With that being said, guys, we will see you back here next Wednesday.